Hello and welcome back to White Rose Resistance Radio, where I am remaking a bunch of my old videos. I will be including new content soon, but I'm trying to get a more consistent upload schedule. So please bear with me if you've one of the handful of people who've watched any of my old videos. Um, so today I'm doing a little something different. I'm going to be talking about my favorite history teacher who really helped inspire me to study history and start this channel. So I'm going to be talking about Mrs. Eddy Faye Gates, who taught history at Edison Senior High School in Tulsa, Oklahoma, um, when I was there in the 1980s and before that. So let's get started. Okay, so who was Eddy Faye Gates and why am I talking about her on my YouTube channel? Um, like I said, was my high school history teacher. She was my favorite teacher when I was in high school. And that says a lot because I was not a happy person in high school. But anyway, she taught history at Edison Senior High School for many, many years. She wrote several books. I've got a list on here, and I'll have a list in the description. She wrote about Black Wall Street. She wrote about the Tulsa Race Massacre or Tulsa Race Riot, and talked about the Black community in Tulsa. She was an amazing teacher. She really worked hard to get her students interested in history, which is something I would aspire to, but I don't think I'm as good at it as she was. She used to, when she would have to be gone for any length of time, she would bring in not just an ordinary substitute, but usually like a guest speaker. So when we were doing Oklahoma history, talking about the Trail of Tears and all of that, she'd bring in a Native American speaker to talk to us. And when we were talking about world history of Europe, when we were covering World War II, she brought in a Holocaust survivor. You could still do that in the 80s because there were a lot more of them around back then. I still can't believe it's been 40 years since I graduated from high school. But she also taught us about um, the Tulsa Race Massacre from 1921, which most people in Tulsa still would not acknowledge had happened. My brother, who went to a very expensive private school, did not learn about it until he was an adult. And he called me and asked me about it. And he said he'd heard about this book. And I said, was it written by Eddy Faye Gates? And he was like, yes. I'm like, that was my high school history teacher. And that's why I know about this and you don't. Oh. But before we get further into Mrs. Gates and how great she was and all of her books and things that she wrote about, because I'm going to go into it a little bit, the history of the Tulsa Race Massacre is an important part of why Mrs. Gates was so inspiring for me. But we're going to have a little sponsor break. All right, here we are with our fake sponsor of this episode. Warning, snark incoming. And yes, all the images are AI. It just seemed appropriate for this particular fake sponsor. So this is Bunker Buddies, real estate and construction. If you are a tech billionaire who is looking for a way to escape the consequences of your actions or the downfall of civilization, which may be the same thing, Bunker Buddies can help you out finding your ideal bunker to hide out. Or if you can't find one in our listings, we can help you build one if you have a site in mind. Guaranteed to survive any apocalypse. Well, the building is anyway, the inhabitants not so much. Be sure to find us at www.bunkerbuddies.blog. We will help you buy or build the bunker of your dreams. And now back to actual history. So a little bit about Mrs. Gates. She was born in Preston, Oklahoma. attended the Tuskegee Institute. She graduated from the University of North Dakota and then later the University of Tulsa. She started teaching in Tulsa in 1968, and she taught school for 22 years. She was also an advocate for reparations to survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre. And then she also was an author and wrote at least 3 books that I know of. I'm going to include the titles of those books in the description, and they're on one of these slides if you want to pause the video and have a look at it. So this was a subject that was very dear to Mrs. Gates' heart, and I think it's a really important thing because a lot of people have not heard about this, don't know about it. In the early 20th century, the Greenwood district in Tulsa was a thriving Black community. Uh, Lots of Black-owned businesses, Black homes. There was a really strong community there. And in 1921, members of the white community in Tulsa burned it to the ground in a shocking display of violence that Tulsa's still kind of recovering from 100 years on. So most people my age were never taught about this in school. As I mentioned before, my brother was not. I think being in Mrs. Gates' class was one of the main reasons I learned about this incident at all. Um, Mrs. Gates would be one of the people who pushed for archaeologists to help um, survivors find the mass graves where people were buried. A lot of people just disappeared. Their relatives didn't know if they were dead or if they just left. It was a terrible calamity for the city of Tulsa, and most people don't even know it happened. So I think it's a really important event to help us understand how things got to where they are, is to understand the tensions that existed between different communities in the past and why sometimes it's really hard to negotiate between those communities when there is some kind of horrific past event that is still in the memory of people who lived through it. I mean, there's still people who were children then who were alive into the 21st century, and they would have told their children and grandchildren about it and great grandchildren. It is a thing that is remembered inside the community it happened to, but the outside community has tried to erase it from history. We can't learn anything if we just pretend like stuff never happened. So I know this has been a really short video. I'm going to include, here's a slide of references and resources. Gilcrease Museum, which is a really great museum in Tulsa, Oklahoma, if you ever get a chance to go there. I know they've been closed for construction for the last couple of years, but surely they will be open again soon. And there's another couple of websites on here, and I will include those in the description as well. And then the books that Mrs. Gates wrote, where they came searching, how Blacks sought the promised land in Tulsa, which is about the beginnings of Black Wall Street. The Riot on Greenwood, the total destruction of Black Wall Street, which is about the race riot, and Miss Lucy's Cookies, and other links in my Black family support system. And I think that's a great and very interesting look into the support in the Black community in Tulsa. So I know there are a great many people who are not in the States or in Tulsa, if anyone is watching this video at all. I don't get very many views yet. I know I've been doing this for a couple of years now, but I've only put out a handful of videos. I'm going to do better at that, I hope. If you found anything interesting, or if you learned anything today, please like and subscribe, and tell your friends, because I only have 37 subscribers, I think. I would very much like to see that go up. I do enjoy sharing history and making comments on things. I know a lot of this is my opinion, but a lot of it is facts as well. So thank you all for listening to me ramble on, and I hope everyone has a really good rest of their day.